mornings. Have another small group that meets every other week, and we actually video. I'm very honored to be a part of that group because it's all, I'm the only woman in the group. It's all men, and they're all men. Mr. Godfrey, both his brother and Ren is in it. Captain Paul Hurlston, who's quite a bit older, even, and Brandon Butler. And Darwin does the video in. And I just wanted to say to you how important it is to tell stories. Storytelling is how we carry our history forward. We talk and we tell stories, and some of them are hilarious, but we learn something from almost everyone. Right, Renee?
That's right.
A very simple question was asked a couple of weeks ago by Mr. Godfrey. Where was the first hospital? And one said somewhere out by where immigration was. And Mr. Brainerd said, oh, stop right there. Hospital Kuwait. Oh, well, none of us had heard of it. And it actually was where Pageant Beach, Henry Ishmael. Well, Miss Palm shaking her head, you know where Henry Ishmael's was, right? Down close to the drain. Between past Pageant Beach going towards the drain, well, the drain would have been in the vicinity of where Comfort Suites is, somewhere in that vicinity right there. So we got discussing that hospital and what was there. I had asked a question when I first started coming, if anybody knew of a story of people buried somewhere in that area that had died from yellow fever. My brother told me about it, said our grandmother had told him, but nobody had heard of that. He knew where the graves were. I mean, they're supposedly still there somewhere along the West Bay Beach in that area. And so then when they started talking about this hospital, I asked that question, and Brainerd said yes. There are people buried there, and there are people buried up south in the vicinity of the terminals. There are gas terminals. I don't know which one, whether it's Rubis or Texaco. And so he said, oh, I have a book about this story. So I said, could we see it? And he goes and gets it. And it's actually, and he brings the book out, it's called Yesterday's Tears. And I said, but I know the person that wrote this book. It was written by a woman called Dorothy Tom. And she is an Adventist, and she actually did Aunt Mary's book. If you look at the ones that Aunt Mary did, hers, say, edited or whatever by Dorothy Tom. So he lets me look at the book, and I kind of power read it while they're still talking, and it turned out to be a story of two Adventist missionaries. They're married, came to Jamaica first. They were going to Banaka as missionaries. The Adventists had their own sailing vessel that they used, carried the missionaries and people around. The captain of that was also a missionary. And how they got as far as Jamaica, and when they got there, they met Mr. Webster, who was not a Caymanian man. I think he had been a missionary in Trinidad, he and his wife. And so his wife, they're in Jamaica waiting to go on the ship as well. I think they must have been going back to Trinidad. And she got yellow fever's raging. And she got yellow fever and died. So they joined this vessel and come here. Mr. Webster has a small child with him. His wife is dead. He's continuing on to wherever. They get to Cayman. Well, they're not sure why they were stopping here. And of course, I power read this book, so I missed a lot of it, right? But I got the basic part of the story. And they got here, and the minute they got here, they were put in quarantine. So we had quarantine back then too. We're trying to figure out what year it is, because nothing in the beginning of the book or anything tells us when this happened. Anyhow, the talk about being in quarantine in these two houses, which must have been the two houses in that area at the time. And they were brought food every day. They talk about how one day they were only brought a bunch of plantains and they didn't know, and how they had to make a meal out of the plantains. And the day before they were to come out of quarantine, his wife gets sick with she comes down with yellow fever, and she actually dies. And the next day, Mr. Webster's child dies from it. And he's questioning in this book how could this man go on knowing that, how could his faith still be so strong even knowing that he's lost his wife and his child, you know?
Yeah.
But in there it says the gentleman actually makes a plaque then to his wife and he puts her dates on it. She was born in 1877 and she died in 1897. So we knew then.
Good evening!
Good evening!
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Hello.
That's right. Take a seat. Get to you later.
So we knew then that
Offer
this
the story.
incident had happened in 1897. Well, I have the death records because I've been doing genealogy a long time, so I just buy the microfiche. I went home and checked the death records and because I wasn't sure if they even had issued a death certificate for them, considering that they died from yellow fever and they wouldn't even bury them in the regular cemetery. But yes, they were issued death certificates. She died on December 26, 1897, and the little girl died on December 27, 1897. So then I went on Ancestry and looked up the man and woman, and sure enough I found where they had been married, and there was actually a family tree that had her in it. And it had, she died in Grand Cayman of yellow fever in 18, and it had correct dates and everything. But that one simple question in the storytelling that we do had led to this whole research. I mean, and it's something that I have never heard. The first time I ever heard of anybody even buried there was my brother saying that our grandmother had told him. So based on those dates and the age of my grandmother, she was like 12 or 13. So she would have been told the story as well. I guess we probably talked about that these people had come in. And there was also a crew member, a Honduran man from the ship who had come down with yellow fever. And I couldn't find a death
So did
certificate.
it tell us how many people died and came out from the yellow fever at that time? It didn't say.
No, because that book was about their lives, so it just told about those two
Okay,
people from the
okay,
Adventist
okay.
missionaries.
But the question is then they was all taken to where we call Hospital Pike, which was our
That's
first
where they were
hospital.
quarantined, yes.
And that was by the again, we old beach story.
Pageant Beach.
I know a lot of people think that our first hospital was only the Rachel Army.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and so did I.
Yeah.
But based on this information, and obviously it's where they quarantined, ships must have come somewhere in the area of Pageant Beach and let the people off.
So
right
the ship
there.
continue on though.
No,
You
yeah,
know?
they stayed, I guess, and waited on them. But he didn't continue on to do the missionary work. He went back to the States and yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was just so interesting that, I mean, if we don't tell the stories, no one will know. You have to tell your children, you have to tell your grandchildren, you know, just keep it going. I mean, it's really important because we're losing all of our history. You know? And then my daughter, I was talking to her about it, and she said, well, Mom, why don't you write it down? People don't like to listen as much anymore, they might want to read it, or why don't podcast all the time? I said, no, but I said, writing a book is the same thing as telling a story. It's just a different way of doing it, you know? But I can't even write a book, but I'll tell you a little story. But see, that's something, a story that you could carry forward. I mean, you could go home and tell your children or grandchildren, yeah, I just heard the story. I didn't know, I mean, I never knew that. And apparently the graves are still there. I mean,
So anybody here can detect it, say that, I can't remember Phyllis, they said that she remembered the hospital. That's
Yeah.
Phyllis. Pam, do you remember the hospital? Needs you?
Yeah, well, I heard about it.
Mom knows.
but
Huh?
Tom, you
You
remember where it was,
No,
right?
I wouldn't know. What is it?
And you know where Henry Ishmael's was.
Yeah.
Diana, you remember anything about that?
You couldn't go in now.
I don't remember, but I
No, I'm talking to, you got a Dinah and Dinah, addressing Dinah.
No, you want to
My father, the ground on the opposite side. But you wouldn't go there.
No, we need one, a Dinah, please.
To walk on that path.
Because of having had the yellow fever there, isn't it?
What grave?
The graves were there.
As children, you wasn't allowed to walk in no graveyard like that.
Yeah, see? So they were, that's correct, and there were graves there.
And your father had land wasn't far from that neither?
No.
Just beyond, in this people beyond the land was. They had land just a little bit past that. They had it, they land.
Oh, yeah. I'll get it.
All right, my students. Thank you very much. You did a good job. Miss Paz, again, we thank you for reading too. Let's see them across. Before we go into further, thank you. We get into the action now. Dinah, we soon get to you. Yeah, bingo. But before I go any further, I have to welcome Miss Daisy. Was here last time, and it was so sweet.
Yes.
She enjoyed listening to us. She enjoyed watching us dance. She enjoyed watching me do the twist and cha cha cha. She enjoyed that. Then she said, I'm coming with some more. Miss Daisy, again, you're welcome. And I have to specially welcome Mr. Kenneth. Mr. Kenneth, who is our representative for Central and Minister of Tourism and Transport, Mr. Kenneth.
Thank you very much, sir. It's an honor to be here.
As a matter of fact, I think you're the first government visitor official that come here and visit us, so we heartily welcome you, sir. I salute to you. And you, my dear, and you?
I have a couple of more coming.
Welcome. Mr. Kenneth, you need to say anything to us? You're not going to have to say something anyway. You have to say something. No problem. All right? But give us a minute. You have to say something. Welcome to you too, first timer. Watch us smile. Please, you know she know? How many years?
She showed me all 32. I didn't know who she is.
No, do you know who's your family to that?
Yes, sir.
You don't know who your family is? No? You don't know anything? You just get through telling me that doll is family to us, and I didn't know that, the grandfather, and you just get through saying that they're going down. You got to be careful of them, and they go so far back the family that you start knocking. You wonder, I wonder if I see you. When you start knocking.
No, that.
I'm serious.
Oh, that's
Much less this.
running down back. I've seen for years back.
Okay.
Ask for me about me. And
Tell her who her father is and where you're coming from. Give her history from the get-go.
His father was teaching Macfield.
Yes.
Yes, but
This time?
he was very instrumental in doing football and cricket around here, you know.
I grew up with you.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I built his house in Tropical Garden.
What? I did not
Me
know
like
that.
I remember teacher Murphy look at that one they say, oh, that a big old strong boy don't need to start playing football. Couldn't play no football, and he took us out, and him and you took us for 3 years and made us start playing football. Yes. And then, yeah. I went out with Mary was shot. Shoe and I go on a pair of white black legs, shoe to play football. When we were there, we were meeting everyone on the slide, you know?
This is another member of my committee. That's just
Hello, Smara. Blessings to you. And see what she's
That's my sister.
Right.
Yeah, I'm Beth, the younger one.
And
Miss Flores.
and the Westfield almost killed the girl. Something no, that's true. They don't John half like you don't eat it or that.
And now men on side, each on our side.
So everybody asks you, what's the matter with you, my son? Tell them what? Good. So, before we Miss Marva, it's my pleasure to have you here amongst us again. Mr. Kenneth, Mr. President, Mr. Minister, I address you again, and I want you to say something before I. Right now, we're going into the birthday. Who has birthday for this month? Anybody have a? Everybody has a birthday beside Mr. Minister. But you know, eh? The palm, okay. Okay.
This time when your birthday is?
18.
Yeah.
18?
Nobody for the month of July, one of this part. Serious talk now.
Oh,
Huh?
seriously?
That's
My birthday is on the 12th.
Yeah, he the same day as her.
But the reason I'm saying, let's wish him happy birthday. Let's clap for him, but he can't get what we need today. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right.
Right?
So what is that?
We have gifts. These gifts is from Mr. Minister from India. He's donate these to us every month for whoever have a birthday gift certificate. This one you have from the Water Authority, you have from different places. And Mr. Kennedy, thank you for that. And since you're here, you're going to present this to Ms. Palm while you take a picture. You put yourself in it. So, anyhow, this is from Mr. Kennedy. This is what we get. This is for your big go. I know that. But, thank you again. Ms. Palm and Ms. Medina. I can tell her what Mr. Hicks said in church is real, but I can't be here. We can have to put out the ball outside. Mr. Hicks looked tight and he said, take that child outside. So, Ms. Palm, happy birthday. God bless you. We wish you many more. We God will keep your foot strong and strength. They keep cooking a nice turtle meat and that. Oh, Ms. Palm cooked some nice conch chowder for us. I will bring that out there shortly. Then open discussion after we finish this. So, Mr. Minister, I call on you again to please come and present this and give us a speech and say something to me before we go. And,
You need to sing happy birthday for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was at just already kissing stuff. Happy birthday this one when it comes.
Yes, ma'am. She'll be back. I never miss you.
Yeah.
Coming to start this
Tonight.
Yeah, I know miss you.
Next time I don't know my family.
I know miss you.
happy birthday, Ms. Palm.
Can you sing happy birthday?
Yes.
On three, everybody.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you. I do. Wake up in the morning, that's what I do.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say
Yeah.
it is an honor to be here. To be honest with you, I'm ashamed I should have been here many more times than before. But the honor more so from the perspective of Mr. Barnes, what you do, and your friends, about keeping our culture and our heritage and our memories and our stories alive. As a member of the government and just as a member of the community, we have to bring more attention to this. You know, we have a museum, but a museum doesn't do what we do here, which is the live history. This is live history, this is conversation. A museum is for people to go walk and look in, and they have internal discussions with themselves. This is something that we should really publicize and give you the assistance necessary to do it, because someone has to take the lead on it, right? And you have done that in your own regard, and I am glad that I came, because it gave me a bit of chills to sit there for a few moments to to see and feel. I almost feel like I went to the farmer shop a couple of minutes ago when I was listening to the talk as a kid. And I'm happy to be here. If there's anything I can do, I really want to say special thanks to my committee member, Ms. Daisy, for reminding me about, we promised from a couple of months back that we were going to come, and hopefully this can be a regular thing. And I'm happy to donate every month any giveaways, because this is for the best cause in the world, which is keeping our history alive. So I won't say much more than that, but say thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to be a part of it today.
So, Ms. Palm, coming to you. You know,
Yes,
I know Miss Palmer on my left, I know my sister, you know, whatever. I have never seen Miss Palm. All I've seen Raymond in there, some dance in the as for me. But I thought when I never seen Miss Palmer in that dance, all of Dory. So one day Miss Palmer up by every up down, I was having that, having this whole time music, so I see how Miss Palmer dance. Oh, my sister dance. Just keep on your finger going. And I said, no, Miss Palmer, no. My sister going like that. This parking over there, people can look at people, and then on Easter who go like this, when they would grandly shake you. Jennifer, you can dance, I know that. Okay, we back to social time and open discussion, and then woo, it's time for bingo. After we done this bingo time.
Yeah.
You know,
Everybody please have
Mr. Barnes.
You got a sandwich, and I'm going to
Mr.
bring up
Barnes.
a nice cup of chowder.
let me say something, please, could I?
Oh,
Wants
son.
to say something.
You know, you see our representative there that always say you mustn't take advantage of people because they don't know who they are, or where they're coming from, or where they're going. I remember many, many years ago, sitting in my house, I heard this upset cry. When I went outside, who should I see? That young man there. You know, the road was higher, the property there, and there was Marlin, and he fall down in the got all messed up with Marl, and he was crying. If I go home, my mama beat me. My mama beat me. And I said, no son, no son, no son. You go back and you go home and you tell her what happened. And you look at him today. I didn't remember Kenneth.
I do remember this.
Huh? You do remember it?
That's part about in the late 80s.
How many?
Primary school, Georgetown Primary School.
Yeah, you was all messed up with Mark. When I go home, my mama beat me.
I'm surprised you remember that.
Yeah, things that I don't forget.
Yeah, you remember like an elephant. Because I left that memory back way back.
When I reflect the memory,
Mr. Mr. Godfrey, I'll tell you why I remember it, because obviously he was the biggest figure, one of the biggest figures in Georgetown.
Because what?
One of the biggest figures in Georgetown.
Yeah.
And for a young man, when you speak to any young person in the area at any time, you have to listen.
Oh, yeah.
Because if Mr. Godfrey said something to your parents, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I do recall it very much, and thank you for being there.
I just want to show this before everybody leave. I got this for second prize at the town hall when they had the hat show. That lady there, Dinah, she told me that she thought I should have had first prize, but I got second. It's satisfying. I got something.
Tilt it a little bit to you. Down. Thank you.
And this hair, I made special for hair.
I was looking at that when I got up. That's beautiful.
I always do things and give it to Rennie to put on display up here. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Never learned.
It's good.
I go.
Alright, here's everybody here, Ms. Sandra would like to say something to you guys. Attention, please.
Well, thank you to Uncle Rennie for inviting me. This was supposed to come last month, but wasn't able to make it. So I'm really delighted to be here today. And I had reached out to him because why I wanted to he said I should come is because I'm doing a series, a video series for Cayman Road called Cayman Voices. And I'm really looking for elderly people in the community. When you're talking about storytelling, that's exactly what I'm looking to be able to capture in sort of a video series. I want to do as many people as possible. So I knew that this would be an initial good sort of stopping ground. And listen, anyone who has a story to tell, I don't care what the story is, something historical, your family history, community history, just about life growing up in the Cayman Islands, that I'm interested in interviewing you and hearing from you. So I've done a couple already. I've done Mr. Richard Descartes. I've done Mr. Bernard Butler.
Mr. Norman.
Mr. Norman Bodden. Yep. So anyone who has time, let me know, and I will make the time to come and sit with you. And I know some persons might feel like doing a full hour-long interview. So even if you do half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever you feel up for, I'm happy to accommodate it.
Okay, so just a second.
Yes.
Trying to get someone to tell you about the marchers at Christmas.
Okay.
Because most people have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
And it has a photograph that I found of the marchers on his wall.
Yeah.
And Christmas was without the marchers. At least it
Yeah, because see, there's so much, I mean, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
There's so much that I think a lot of young people don't know.
And I
So
tried
thank
to
you.
get it done, but I did. It's happening silent. I think they were the neighbors and the I had father was one of the marchers. You don't even know what the marchers are? Yeah, the picture is on the wall of the marcher.
Oh,
Mark.
yes. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for that. So if you have any recommendations of someone you think would be great to as well, please let me know. And I want to start with the older people, just get mine is not at their size, so to speak, unfortunately.
I know, picture it there.
All I eat is a great
That is my great grandfather.
Right.
That my granddad was like, I mean, gave that to them. That's my great grandfather.
Thank you so much.
Not Frank's father? Not Frank Marshall, not
Yeah, that was I have a picture with all those marbles shirt. I got some pictures I can't find. I can't find it.
Yeah, but Marshall. See that baby is in?
We never. Thank you.
See that baby?
Oh,
We never did call them the marker.
Oh, yeah.
Called them the serenade.
That what?
It was no thing like the marker. It was the serenade.
Yeah, but that can last a long time.
Serenade.
Yes, please.
If so, tell me soon because I head back home tomorrow. Look, sir, we are actually just here to check out the Cayman Islands and not necessarily your place, so lovely as it is, but it's way above my budget. What's your budget? He asked. I told him. And this place was a full 450,000 less than he was asking. Are you willing to pay me that price? I suppose so, I answered haltingly. Okay, I accept. So I went inside. Diana, I think I just bought this unit. He is prepared to meet me at my budget, 450,000 less than what he was originally asking. Good, is all she replied. Because she was already working out where the furniture would fit in. The banker's wife who was with us, she was stunned. How much did he accept? And when I told her, can't be, no unit here has ever sold anywhere near that price for years, she replied. And she went back out to check it overnight. My goodness, you're right. He'll meet your offer. And it includes everything in it. Every last chair, bed, item of dinnerware, light fixtures, everything. What a deal, what a steal. The rest of the owners here will be mad as heck because you just lowered the value of their units by 30%. Waking up to reality, I took my wife and the realtor to the Italian coffee shop down the road. Incidentally, that was also perfect. Diana, this was supposed to be a first exploratory trip only. We still have 18 months on the Monte Carlo lease where we are, and we need to collect money, etc. No worries, being the elegant banker's wife. Her husband, who had also joined them, grinned from ear to ear with excitement. You can rent this place for at least $7,000 a month as long as you need, and nothing will ever beat that price. Even if you decide to sell it, you can't lose. Diana, what about your doubts? Because you didn't want us to leave Monaco. Michael, I've told you for years, I always wanted to live on an island, a Caribbean island, and you know that. Really? I knew that, but how come I never knew that I knew that? Well, Diana looked away. Men are so dumb. It was written all over her face. But I was cooked. I had launched a boat, and I was no longer in control. Cayman Islands, here we come. What an amazingly positive decision that turned out to be. And what about the pushy banker and his lady? Can't thank them enough for what they did to enhance our lives.
Shocking.
Very interesting.
Thank you, Mr.
Another one asks a question. What is the Cayman angel dust? And one says Sundays out east. Another one speaks about Cayman Industries. And one asks, is Cayman a good place to retire? Another one says, Kenneth Dart, Batman of the Cayman Islands.
So, on earth as it is in
Pageant Beach, Henry Ishmael. Well, Miss Palm shaking her head, you know where Henry Ishmael's was, right? Down close to the drain. Between past Pageant Beach going towards the drain, well, the drain would have been in the vicinity of where Comfort Suites is, somewhere in that vicinity right there. So we got discussing that hospital and what was there. I had asked a question when I first started coming, if anybody knew of a story of people buried somewhere in that area that had died from yellow fever. My brother told me about it, said our grandmother had told him, but nobody had heard of that. He knew where the graves were. I mean, they're supposedly still there somewhere along the West Beach in that area. And so then when they started talking about this hospital, I asked that question, and Brainerd said yes. There are people buried there, and there are people buried up south in the vicinity of the terminals, the gas terminals. I don't know which one, whether it's Rubis or Texaco. And so he said, oh, I have a book about this story. So I said, could we see it? And he goes and gets it. And it's actually, and he brings the book out, it's called Yesterday's Tears. And I said, but I know the person that wrote this book. It was written by a woman called Dorothy Tom. And she's an Adventist, and she actually did Aunt Mary's book. If you look at the ones that Aunt Mary did, hers edited or whatever by Dorothy Com. So she lets me look at the book, and I kind of power read it while they're still talking, and it turned out to be a story of two Adventist missionaries. They're married, came to Jamaica first. They were going to Banaka as missionaries. The Adventists had their own sailing vessel that they used, carried missionaries and people around. And the captain of that was also a missionary. And how they got as far as Jamaica, and when they got there, they met a Mr. Webster, who was not a Caymanian man. I think he had been a missionary in Trinidad.
Kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it What is that? On earth as it is